Have you ever stumbled upon a mystery so compelling that it made you question everything you thought you knew? Today we're diving into an incredible discovery, one that could rewrite history books and challenge the way we view the ancient world. Picture this, an artifact so baffling it connects hidden tombs in China, secret manuscripts in Egypt, and lost cities beneath the waves. Sounds too wild to be true, right? Well, buckle up, because this ride might just shake your understanding of human history to its core. Stick around until the end of this video, and you'll uncover how all these seemingly unrelated puzzles come together, revealing astonishing insights that have been hiding in plain sight. And hey, if you enjoy exploring fascinating mysteries and uncovering hidden histories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and ensures we can keep bringing you stories that will keep you guessing. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Echoes of antiquity. Ancient civilizations have left behind an array of baffling monuments, cryptic artifacts, and legends that seem to defy the boundaries of recorded history. In many parts of the world, the sands of time have buried not only physical treasures, but also knowledge, cultural beliefs, and entire ways of life. Modern archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts continue to sift through deserts, traverse forests, climb mountains, or dive beneath the waves in search of fragments that might piece together humanity's forgotten past. Yet these remnants sometimes raise more questions than they answer, leaving us in a perpetual state of wonderment. Even advanced technology has not resolved certain ancient mysteries, hinting that there may have been capabilities, engineering know-how, spiritual concepts, or organizational feats that challenge our understanding of what earlier societies could achieve. In this first part of our exploration, we delve into 7 enigmas that highlight both the ingenuity of ancient builders and the profound secrecy that has cloaked their accomplishments. We begin with the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, an underground kingdom in China, guarded by the famed terracotta army. Its core chamber remains sealed, partly due to practical concerns about preservation, and partly because it carries a deep cultural and spiritual significance. Then we shift to the vast steppes of Mongolia, where the lost tomb of Genghis Khan has eluded discovery for centuries, protected by legends of secrecy and respect. We will also examine evidence of towering beings in the tale of the giant of Castelnau, an archaeological puzzle that challenges the boundaries of human anatomy and may or may not point to a race of giants in our distant past. Moving on, we will journey below the ground to investigate the Longyu Caves in China's Zhejiang province, where massive subterranean chambers appear carved with such precision that researchers can hardly conceive how an ancient society completed them without historical record. Our expedition then reaches Baalbek in Lebanon, featuring megalithic stones so massive that their origin and transport continue to perplex scientists and engineers alike. Were the Romans truly responsible for these multi-ton blocks, or might they have inherited the site from a still older, unidentified civilization? We will also cast our gaze upon a medieval manuscript of staggering proportions. The Codex Gigas, better known as the Devil's Bible. Legends maintain that it was composed in a single night by a monk who brokered a deal with the devil. The truths hidden within its pages, ranging from biblical texts to demonic illustrations, testify to the era's intricate blending of religious devotion and superstition. Finally, we turn to Göbekli Tepe, one of the world's most astonishing archaeological discoveries. Dated to more than 11,000 years ago, it pushes the timeline of monumental architecture far beyond what was once thought possible for hunter-gatherer societies, upending previous theories about the origins of complex social organization. In the paragraphs ahead, each mystery draws us further into the past, offering glimpses of civilizations that thrived, vanished, or were deliberately forgotten. From ambitious rulers seeking to immortalize themselves in hidden tombs to monolithic wonders that seem carved by impossible means. These ancient sites and stories speak not just of lost technologies, but also of our collective fascination with Origin's power and the unknown. Let us open the door to Part 1 and encounter the deep echoes of antiquity that still resonate through scattered ruins and cryptic narratives. Among the most iconic and mystifying archaeological sites in the world, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang lies hidden under a massive earthen mound in Shanxi Province, China. Qin Shi Huang, also spelled Qin Shi Huangdi, reigned as the first emperor of a unified China more than 2,000 years ago, from 221 to 210 BCE. He is widely celebrated for standardizing currency measures and writing, but his monumental final resting place, discovered in the 1970s, continues to intrigue both experts and laypeople alike. Surrounding the core tumulus are thousands of life-size terracotta warriors, chariots and horses, intricately crafted figures that replicate the emperor's army. Each sculpture possesses distinct facial features, hairstyles, and armor configurations, suggesting they were modeled after real soldiers rather than mass-produced identical statues. According to ancient chronicles, most notably the work of historian Sima Qian, Qin Shi Huang ordered his mausoleum's construction shortly after becoming king at the tender age of 13. Historians estimate that up to 700,000 laborers worked for decades to create an underground world replete with palaces, scenic replicas, and booby traps ready to thwart any intruder. Sima Qian's records describe elaborate rivers of mercury flowing through the chamber to emulate China's major waterways, and a ceiling studded with precious gems to represent the constellations. The bizarre detail about Mercury once seemed purely mythical, but modern scientific surveys have indeed detected extraordinarily high mercury levels in the soil above the burial mound, suggesting there may be truth behind the old texts. Despite these tantalizing clues, the central tomb chamber remains officially unexcavated. Part of this hesitation arises from the destructive effects of early excavation attempts. When the terracotta army vault was first opened, the vibrant paints adorning the warriors' garments deteriorated almost instantly upon exposure to the air. Additionally, high concentrations of mercury in the soil pose a major risk not only to excavators, but also to the environmental well-being of the surrounding region if handled improperly. Another factor is cultural and spiritual respect. In China, disturbing the tomb of an emperor is considered a highly sensitive matter that can provoke public controversy, moral concerns, and debates over preserving national heritage. Beyond safety and preservation, some historians speculate that a sealed tomb of such scale might harbor revelations that disrupt our current narrative of early Chinese civilization. There are theories unverified, but endlessly compelling, that inside might lie evidence of advanced technologies or cross-cultural exchanges whose records never survived in official annals. These theories, while sensational, reflect a long-standing belief that the tomb of China's first emperor conceals secrets well beyond golden treasures. For the time being, the terracotta army, with its regiments of warriors and war horses, continues to dazzle millions of visitors annually. Yet the mound at the center stands untouched, a place where time remains frozen, and the emperor's domain presumably stays intact just as he intended. Whether future archaeologists will one day muster the political will, the scientific means, and the cultural acceptance to explore this monumental crypt in full remains an open question. For now, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang endures as an enduring testament to power, innovation, and mystery. High on the windswept steppes of Mongolia, the legend of Genghis Khan's lost tomb has persisted for nearly 8 centuries. The founder of the Mongol Empire died in 1227, having forged one of the largest continuous land empires in history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe. Although his military campaigns and administrative policies are extensively chronicled in sources like The Secret History of the Mongols, the exact location of his gravesite has eluded explorers, archaeologists, and adventurers for generations. Popular legend states that Genghis Khan himself requested an unmarked and hidden burial, intending his final resting place to remain unknown. According to oral traditions, the funeral procession slaughtered anyone who happened upon it during the journey to ensure the location remained a secret. Some say that 2,000 attendees at the funeral were then executed by soldiers who in turn were killed themselves so that not a single living witness would remain. In some versions of the story, 1,000 horses were driven over the burial site to erase every hint of excavation. Still other Mongolian folk tales mention a mother camel left to grieve at the hidden grave, enabling the emperor's descendants to locate his tomb for future veneration. Despite centuries of effort, modern attempts to locate the burial place have made little headway. Several areas are prime candidates, particularly Burkhan Khaldun, a sacred mountain revered by Genghis Khan and often referenced in historical texts. However, local Mongolians generally resist large-scale excavations in this region, holding that the land is sacred and that disturbing the emperor's tomb would bring misfortune. Political and cultural sensitivities also complicate potential digs, leaving many research teams stranded at the planning stage. Satellite imagery analyses, drone surveys, and high-tech ground-penetrating radar have identified anomalies in the terrain, but none has conclusively pinpointed a tomb. Apart from the secrecy of its location, the lost tomb of Genghis Khan has drawn speculation for the unimaginable wealth it might contain. Over decades of conquest, the Mongols gathered immense richest treasure from China, Persia, and beyond. Archaeological fantasies depict the tomb as a vast underground chamber filled with gold jewels and artifacts, symbolizing Khan's imperial might. Adding further allure are the stories of curses and deadly mishaps that have supposedly befallen those who dare to search. The combination of legendary cruelty, spiritual reverence, and possible hidden treasure captures global imagination, transforming the lost tomb into an epic narrative of power and the ephemeral nature of conquest. But for the Mongolian people, the significance of Genghis Khan transcends material riches. He is a national hero, credited with laying the foundation for religious tolerance, administrative organization, and laws that shaped a vast empire. Many prefer that his final wishes remain honored, and that his resting place stay undisturbed, preserved as part of Mongolia's national identity. In this sense, the tomb remains truly lost, protected not just by earth, but by the profound respect that generations have accorded the great Khan who once united half the known world under his banner. In the late 19th century, the sleepy region of Castelnau-le-Lez in southern France briefly took the spotlight when Georges Vacher de Lapouge, an anthropologist, unearthed 3 unusually large bone fragments from a prehistoric burial site. Published in 1890 in the journal La Nature, Lapouge's findings seem to indicate that these remains belonged to a human who stood over 11 feet tall, an astonishing claim that ignited curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. The bones included a segment of femur, a portion of a tibia, and an arm fragment. Based on the measurements, Lapouge concluded that they were nearly twice the size of equivalent modern human bones. This discovery stirred hopes of finding evidence for the existence of giants in human prehistory, echoing mythological narratives from around the world. From the cyclopes of Greek lore to the biblical Nephilim, nearly every culture has its own version of towering figures that straddle the boundary between legend and reality. The giant of Castelnau seemed poised to confirm such folklore, or at least to raise significant questions about ancient human variation and pathology. Contemporary experts at the University of Montpellier examined the bones and initially affirmed their human-like characteristics. Soon afterward, however, the remains vanished from public collections, leaving behind no chance for subsequent re-examination. In the years that followed, scattered reports emerged in nearby French locales of similarly large skeletal fragments, including oversized skulls and femurs, sometimes attributed to individuals who may have reached 10 to 15 feet in height. None of these alleged discoveries have held up under modern scrutiny because the bones either disappeared or were never verified by independent researchers. This pattern of vanishings sparked rumors of conspiracies and cover-ups, intriguing but unconfirmed. Critics of the giant of Castelnau theory propose alternative explanations. One suggests that Lapouge and his contemporaries misidentified large animal bones such as those of extinct cave bears for human remains. Another possibility is that the bones belong to an individual suffering from an extreme form of gigantism or another growth disorder that drastically enlarged skeletal structure. Still, questions linger if it was merely a mistaken identification. Why were the bones initially authenticated as human by several experts of the time? And if the remains really were pathological, anomalies might not at least a portion of them have survived in an archive, enabling further study with modern technology such as DNA sequencing or advanced imaging. The continuing absence of the original fragments has relegated the giant of Castelnau to a perplexing footnote in anthropological annals, suspended between legitimate discovery and sensationalized myth. To this day, the story underscores how fragile historical evidence can be. Artifacts and bones can vanish into private collections or be lost to natural disasters, unscrupulous collectors, or misguided curiosity seekers. Meanwhile, the mythos of giants persists across cultures, feeding an undercurrent of fascination that continually challenges the boundaries of accepted scientific understanding. Whether Lapouge indeed stumbled on compelling proof of giant humans or simply fell prey to 19th century scientific optimism may never be definitively resolved, but the mystery continues to spark debate and wonder in the study of human origins. In a quiet region of Zhejiang province, China, a chance discovery in 1992 has led to one of the most astounding underground enigmas in modern archaeology. Dubbed the Longyu Caves, this subterranean complex of at least 20 artificially carved caverns stuns visitors with perfectly chiseled walls and ceilings shaped in a way that suggests a large-scale organized effort. The story began when a local farmer decided to drain the water from a pond near his village. Expecting a modest water hole, the villagers instead revealed a voluminous chamber cut into the bedrock, its walls covered in parallel markings reminiscent of tool striations. Encouraged by this shocking revelation, others in the community pumped water from neighboring ponds, ultimately exposing a virtual subterranean city that had been hidden for centuries, perhaps millennia. The scale of the Longyu caves is staggering. Some chambers measure over 30 meters high, with their floors and ceilings crafted into geometric shapes or smooth planes that meet with uncanny precision. The pillars supporting the chambers are consistently spaced, and every surface displays those uniform vertical or diagonal lines carved into the stone. No debris or leftover rock fragments have ever been found, and the excavation marks look almost as if they could have been made by modern machinery. Yet these caverns are believed to date back around 2,000 years, possibly to the Qin or early Han dynasty. Adding to the mystery is the near-total absence of historical documentation. Chinese records are typically meticulous, preserving even mundane details of imperial projects, but no chronicle mentions the Longyu caves or any endeavor resembling such a mammoth undertaking. Speculation abounds. Some theories suggest that the caves served as massive underground granaries or water reservoirs. Others posit that they were protective bunkers or refuge spaces constructed during a time of conflict, hidden so thoroughly that they remain undiscovered until modern times. However, no weapons, tools, or human remains have ever been unearthed within these chambers. No pottery shards, no coins, nothing that points definitively to their use. This emptiness itself raises the question, could the caves have been ritual spaces or tomb complexes once filled with wooden structures or items that have since rotted away? Another line of thinking entertains the idea of a sophisticated, lost civilization. Some researchers point to the remarkable consistency of the carvings, noting that each chamber is carved in a nearly identical style, implying a unified directive. If it was indeed an imperial or state-level project, why does it vanish so completely from official memory? Alternatively, if it was a local group's undertaking, how did they mobilize such immense labor without leaving any trace of administration or funding? Although attempts have been made to date the rock surfaces and gather more geological data, the real story behind the Longyu caves remains stubbornly elusive. In an era of advanced technology, the silence of these vast chambers speaks volumes. They remind us that for every well-studied relic of the past, countless others lie beneath fields, seas, or forests, waiting for a curious mind or a simple act of draining water to bring them to light. In the fertile Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, the ancient city of Baalbek has stood as a cultural crossroads for millennia. Yet beneath its Roman temples and weathered ruins, the site hides massive stone blocks that challenge modern engineering's imagination. Chief among these behemoths are the trilithon stones, each exceeding 750 tons, forming part of the temple of Jupiter's foundational platform. Nearby quarries reveal even larger blocks, left partially cut or abandoned in place, including the so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman, which weighs an estimated 1,000 tons, and another colossus, believed to top 1,600 tons. How could any civilization, Roman or otherwise, haul and position such gargantuan stones using only ancient methods? Although the Roman Empire was famed for advanced building techniques, nothing in the historical record definitively explains the transporting of stones weighing hundreds of tons across uneven terrain. Roman cranes, documented by sources like Vitruvius, were capable of lifting at most around 100 tons, and there is no clear evidence of the elaborate pulley systems or mechanical arrays that would have been necessary for such monstrous megaliths. Some scholars argue that a combination of earthen ramps rollers and sheer manpower could theoretically move the blocks, though skeptics note the lack of direct archaeological evidence such as massive ramp remains tool marks or relevant inscriptions detailing the process. Because the trilithon and its surrounding megalithic foundations differ in style and scale from the later Roman construction, certain researchers speculate that Baalbek's earliest strata might predate Roman occupation. This leads to conjectures involving Phoenicians, Greeks, or an even older unnamed civilization. The repeating question is how and why carve blocks weighing well over 1,000 tons if simpler construction methods would have sufficed for a temple platform. The enormity of these stones far surpassing the standard building practices of known ancient empires invites the proposition of unknown technologies. Alternative theories range from advanced anti-gravity knowledge to lost engineering tactics that were destroyed or concealed in successive conquests. Adding to the enigma is Baalbek's rich religious heritage. The site's earliest known association is with the Canaanite god Baal. The Romans, upon arriving, dedicated the place to Jupiter, building an expansive temple complex. Visitors still marvel at the 6 towering columns of the Temple of Jupiter, but these are overshadowed quite literally by the monolithic platform beneath. Engineers examining the stones question whether the rocky terrain and roads of antiquity could have borne the stress of dragging multi-ton blocks for even a short distance. All the speculation begs deeper questions about the adaptability of ancient builders and the possibility of advanced organizational systems that remain undocumented. Did the Romans inherit a half-finished platform from an older tradition, or did they truly orchestrate this Herculean feat, themselves leaving few clues behind? Ultimately, the Baalbek megaliths stand as silent witnesses to a mastery of stonework that surpasses textbook narratives of classical engineering. Whether explained by a lost technique or simply overlooked evidence, the blocks persist as a humbling reminder that even the most impressive accomplishments of modern construction cannot easily replicate the achievements carved into Baalbek's archaic bedrock. In the hushed halls of Sweden's National Library resides a medieval manuscript so large and peculiar that it has been nicknamed the Devil's Bible. Officially known as the Codex Gigas, this book measures nearly a meter in height, half a meter in width, and weighs around 75 kilograms. Its 620 pages, made from hundreds of calf skins, are reputed to contain vast knowledge, the entire Latin Bible, historical accounts, medical texts, and exorcism spells. Yet it is not the content alone that fuels its legend, but the chilling lore of how it was supposedly produced. An enduring story asserts that a Benedictine monk in 13th century Bohemia committed a grave offense and was sentenced to be walled up alive. In a desperate bid for clemency, he pledged to write a book that would encapsulate all human knowledge in a single night. Recognizing the impossibility of such a feat, the monk is said to have summoned the devil. By dawn, the giant manuscript was complete, signed, as the legend claims, with a haunting full-page portrait of Satan. This monstrous depiction of the devil, featuring menacing horns and claws, stands apart from typical medieval illuminations. Whether purely an artistic flourish or something more symbolic remains a point of debate. Modern scholars have scoured the Codex Gigas for clues to its true origins. Paleographic analysis reveals that the script is remarkably uniform, indicating that it was likely written by one scribe, though over many years, rather than a single night. Some parts of the text are biblical, with the full Old and New Testaments, while other sections deal with historical narratives, medical knowledge, and magical incantations. Also included are conjuration, demonological references, and instructions on exorcisms. Although the Catholic Church was dominant in medieval Europe, the boundaries between religion, superstition, and science were fluid, a reality reflected in the eclectic contents of the Codex Gigas. The manuscript's journey is no less intriguing. Seized as war booty by Swedish forces during the 30 Years' War in 1648, it was brought to Stockholm, where it has remained since. Over the centuries, it has survived fires and political upheavals, fueling rumors of a curse that supposedly triggers calamities whenever the Codex Gigas is moved. Nonetheless, academics who have examined it up close report no sense of the evil that folklore ascribes to it, instead describing an incredible achievement of dedication and scribal skill. Yet mysteries remain. Why devote entire sections to demonology? Was it a genuine reference for exorcists or a cautionary allegory about spiritual temptation? Some have noted that the design's uniformity, particularly the meticulously lined pages and consistent letter forms, remains difficult to explain if the scribe worked alone without additional scribes or advanced layout tools. The Codex Gigas stands as a testament to the medieval thirst for knowledge and the era's fascination with religious extremes. Whether shaped by pious devotion, monastic discipline, or a swirl of dark fables, the Devil's Bible represents a record of faith-fear and the unpredictable interplay between knowledge and mystery. On a remote hilltop in southeastern Turkey, the remarkable site of Göbekli Tepe has forever changed our understanding of early human civilization. Discovered in 1994 by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, this prehistoric sanctuary features massive circular enclosures ringed by T-shaped limestone pillars, many of which are intricately carved with images of animals, lions, wild boars, cranes, vultures, snakes, and stylized human forms. What truly makes Göbekli Tepe stand out is its age. It dates back around 11,000 to 12,000 years, predating Stonehenge by roughly 6 millennia and the earliest of the Egyptian pyramids by at least 7,000 years. Prior to Göbekli Tepe's discovery, prevailing archaeological theory held that complex monumental architecture arose only after the advent of agriculture. Society had to shift from nomadic hunter-gatherer groups to sedentary farming communities before possessing the organization, resources, and labor needed to erect megalithic structures. Yet Göbekli Tepe provides strong evidence that groups of hunter-gatherers created these monumental circles long before cultivating wheat or domesticating animals on a large scale. In fact, some scholars now propose that the cooperative effort required to build a site like Göbekli Tepe may have been a catalyst for the development of agriculture and more permanent settlements, reversing the formerly accepted sequence. Another curious feature is that the site appears to have been deliberately backfilled and abandoned after a period of use. The layers of debris carefully buried the stone circles, helping preserve the pillars and carvings in pristine condition for millennia. Why this was done remains unclear, leading to speculation that perhaps the spiritual or cultural significance of Göbekli Tepe waned or changed, prompting its builders to seal it off. Others wonder if burying such a grand structure was a means of ritual closure, a final act of reverence rather than a sign of neglect. The pillars themselves are a marvel of stoneworking skill, each weighing several tons and standing up to 6 meters tall. They are arranged in circular or oval layouts, often with 2 central pillars facing each other, resembling stylized human forms with arms and hands carved along their sides. The iconography includes not only animals, but also abstract symbols, suggesting a worldview rooted in both environmental awareness and complex spiritual concepts. Excavations revealed that the site was used for gatherings, feasting, and possibly religious ceremonies that bound scattered groups together in a unified tradition. Still, definitive explanations are elusive. A site of such age presents challenges. No written records exist, organic material has decayed, and the region's political climate has often hindered extended excavations. Yet every discovery from Göbekli Tepe resonates with the possibility that early humans possessed unexpected engineering prowess and spiritual sophistication. In rewriting the origin story of organized religion and social hierarchy, Göbekli Tepe prompts us to reconsider how people came together to achieve such monumental feats and whether other similarly ancient wonders lie waiting beneath centuries of dust and oblivion. From the grand subterranean mausoleum of China's first emperor, to the wind-swept Mongolian plains where the greatest conqueror of the medieval world remains buried in anonymity, we see how power, faith, and cultural tradition intertwine to shape and sometimes hide the physical evidence of the past. The giant of Castelnau challenges our assumptions about the physiological limits of ancient humanity, reminding us that anomalies or misinterpretations in archaeology can propagate long-running debate. Meanwhile, the tranquil farmland concealing the Longyu caves reveals that entire underground marvels can remain undetected for thousands of years, ready to be uncovered by mere chance. At Baalbek in Lebanon, the megalithic blocks speak to a construction feat that defies the conventional understanding of Roman engineering, or perhaps belongs to an even earlier epoch. Likewise, the immense pages of the Codex Gigas beckon us into a medieval mindset where religious devotion coexisted with beliefs in the supernatural, highlighting the blurred lines between sacred knowledge and demonic fear. Göbekli Tepe, older than any known temple or monument complex, subverts the presumed link between agriculture and monumental construction, suggesting that spiritual fervor and communal gatherings may have been the real catalyst for civilization. Each of these sites and artifacts underscores how much remains uncertain about the human journey. Although modern science and technology have filled in numerous gaps, every new discovery opens additional questions, prompting us to explore records, test hypotheses, and look for fresh evidence. We also confront the reality that cultural taboos, environmental hazards, or inadequate preservation methods may forever bar us from fully accessing the knowledge locked away in certain tombs or manuscripts. Even issues of national pride and heritage can play decisive roles in whether or not archaeologists have permission to conduct deeper investigations. In Part 1, we have only scratched the surface of these grand puzzlements, offering glimpses into the scale of human achievement and the labyrinthine nature of our historical record. Ancient wonders are not merely tourist attractions or academic curiosities. They speak to our shared human impulse to build, to create meaning, and sometimes to conceal or protect what we have constructed. The more we uncover, the more we realize that history is anything but linear or straightforward. Instead, it emerges from an intricate tapestry, woven by countless civilizations, each leaving behind traces that could either enlighten or perplex future generations. Now, as we stand on the threshold of further revelations, let us move to part 2 of our journey. We will investigate additional wonders, from hidden pyramids rumored to be larger than Egypt's to a mysterious black sarcophagus found in the heart of Alexandria, each representing a piece of the vast unsolved puzzle of our past. By piecing together these echoes of lost worlds, we gain not only a deeper respect for our ancestors' capacities, but also a renewed sense of humility about what we have yet to discover. Secrets beneath the sands. Having surveyed a selection of the world's most astounding ancient enigmas, from clandestine tombs to hidden cave systems in part 1, we now turn our attention to further marvels that defy straightforward explanation. These next accounts highlight a historical record filled with rumored structures towering above the known wonders of the past, cryptic maps that depict lands not yet discovered by mainstream exploration, and strange artifacts that no written source can fully explain. Our engagement with these mysteries reveals how quickly the lines can blur between verifiable fact and interpretative speculation. In this second part, we begin with the White Pyramid of China, a legendary structure reportedly glimpsed by pilots but never conclusively confirmed by Western archaeologists. Then, in contrast, we delve into a sensationally real excavation, the unearthing of the black sarcophagus of Alexandria, which stirred a frenzy of curiosity and tabloid rumor when it was opened in 2018. From there, our path leads us to the Piri Reis map, an Ottoman-era chart that astonishingly includes coastlines of Antarctica, centuries before that continent was officially documented. The scope of these stories challenges us to reassess what ancient mariners, cartographers, and explorers might have known and how they came to know it. Later, we encounter one of the greatest riddles of prehistoric North America, the abrupt disappearance of the Clovis people, whose distinctive stone points stand as a hallmark of early human technology. Their vanishing raises profound questions about climate change, mass extinctions, and even the possibility of cataclysmic cosmic events. We also face an untranslatable manuscript known as the Rohonk Codex, which continues to defy linguists and cryptographers who have attempted to unlock its secrets. Next, we observe Costa Rica's stone spheres, spherical objects of near-perfect geometry that might represent cosmic alignments or boundary markers for a civilization largely lost to history. Part 2 concludes with the saga of Doggerland, a submerged landmass once connecting Great Britain to mainland Europe. Though seldom featured in mainstream narratives of human origins, the remains of animals, artifacts, and submerged forests point to a place that was once a lush habitat, perhaps even a cradle of early European culture, until sea level rise and a devastating tsunami consigned it to the bottom of the North Sea. This suite of topics underscores how easily entire civilizations or their most impressive monuments can vanish under shifting sands, rising waters, or the veil of official secrecy. As we delve deeper, we continue to witness the complex interplay between historical documents, local legends, scientific analysis, and the constraints imposed by modern-day governments or environmental conditions. Archaeological progress often hinges on politics, funding, and available technology. Meanwhile, the deeper we dig, the more we recognize that the tapestry of human history is incomplete, with many threads cut off abruptly or woven so intricately that we struggle to interpret them. The next 8 paragraphs explore each of these mysteries in turn, highlighting how pieces of the past remain concealed, but also beckoning, urging us to uncover their hidden truths. During the mid-20th century, a series of reports from American pilots flying over northwestern China sparked rumors of a colossal white pyramid hidden among the remote mountains of Shanxi province. One pilot, James Gaussman, claimed in 1945 to have seen an immense glimmering structure made of or covered in white material. Another pilot in 1947, Maurice Sheahan, took a series of grainy photographs, fueling further speculation. Media accounts in the West were rife with sensational headlines suggesting the existence of a mega-structure even taller than Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. Yet, once China's borders tightened after World War II, the region supposedly housing the White Pyramid became restricted to foreign researchers, effectively muting independent verification. Official Chinese statements have long maintained that these are earthen burial mounds for ancient emperors from the Qin Han or Tang dynasties, many of which dot the landscape around Xi'an, famously known for the terracotta army and numerous imperial mausoleums. However, some of these mounds are indeed large, with certain measurements exceeding 100 meters in height, and speculation persists that at least one might surpass known pyramids elsewhere in the world. Local legends speak of a shining surface of limestone or clay, once adorning the mound, reflecting sunlight and giving it a radiant quality. Over centuries, exposure to weather and growth of vegetation could have concealed that original white layer, turning it into an earthen hill. Satellite imagery from commercial and military sources has revealed multiple pyramid-like shapes scattered across the region, some with strikingly geometric outlines. But the exact location of the alleged White Pyramid glimpsed by Gaussman and Sheahan remains fuzzy, especially given that their flight accounts lack precise coordinates. Some Western authors suggest these pyramidal mounds might be vestiges of a forgotten civilization older than recorded Chinese history. More radical theories connect them to interstellar visitors, citing supposed alignments with constellation patterns akin to the claims made about the Giza pyramids lining up with Orion's belt. While mainstream archaeology dismisses these extraterrestrial hypotheses, it acknowledges that a number of imperial tombs remain unopened. The Chinese government often cites preservation, concerns the cultural significance of not disturbing ancestral grounds, and the complex logistics of large-scale excavation as reasons for caution. This climate of limited access and official reticence has kept the White Pyramid swirling in rumor. Although some adventurers claim to have traveled through the region and photographed giant mounds, no definitive peer-reviewed excavation report has emerged to confirm that a single massive white monument exceeds all other pyramids in size. Instead, we have an array of earthen mounds and partial photographic evidence. The truth may be simpler than the legend. Large tomb mounds do exist, but the glowing white behemoth described by pilots could be either an exaggeration or a case of mistaken identity. Until full archaeological surveys become possible and are permitted by local authorities, the White Pyramid remains an emblem of how partial testimonies and tantalizing glimpses can fuel enduring fascination with the hidden corners of history. In July 2018, construction workers in Alexandria, Egypt, were preparing to lay foundations when they stumbled upon a massive black granite coffin 5 meters below street level. Measuring around 2.7 meters in length, 1.5 meters in width, and nearly 2 meters in height, this sarcophagus weighed an astonishing 30 tons. Almost immediately, rumors exploded across social media suggesting that the crypt might belong to Alexander the Great, whose true resting place has never been conclusively identified, or that it could harbor a vengeful mummy's curse waiting to be unleashed. The widespread speculation reflected the enduring public appetite for Egyptian antiquities and their associated legends. Led by the Ministry of Antiquities, archaeologists secured the site and painstakingly opened the sarcophagus. Instead of pristine mummies or golden treasures, they found murky, brownish-red liquid emanating a foul odor. Inside lay 3 waterlogged skeletons, most likely the remains of 2 men and a woman. Later forensic analysis indicated they dated roughly to the early Ptolemaic period around the 4th century BCE. Though the dating was not so precise as to confirm a direct link to any well-known historical figure. Skull fractures found on one skeleton suggested a violent death, leading to multiple theories. Perhaps these were soldiers, aristocrats caught in a power struggle, or individuals of some social rank who nonetheless left behind no inscriptions or grave goods. Adding to the mystique was a small alabaster bust discovered near the coffin, its features so worn by time that positive identification was impossible. The coffin's unadorned exterior puzzled scholars because such a large and expensive piece of granite would usually be reserved for a high-status burial that included carved hieroglyphs or symbolic motifs. Why was a sarcophagus of this caliber so plainly sealed, and why did no text or iconography indicate the occupants' names or lineage? The sensational rumors soon gave way to more practical concerns. Some locals believed the sarcophagus's watery contents might hold miraculous or supernatural powers, prompting odd requests to bottle or even drink the liquid. Health officials, predictably alarmed, issued stern warnings against consuming potentially toxic fluid containing decomposed organic matter. In a sense, the black sarcophagus fiasco exemplified the tension between serious scientific inquiry and the public's romantic fixation on curses and conspiracies. While the find did not reshape Egyptological orthodoxy, it underscored how the city of Alexandria, once the seat of the famed Library of Alexandria and the Ptolemaic dynasty, still harbors countless undiscovered vestiges beneath its modern streets. The black sarcophagus joined the ranks of curiosities, highlighting how much remains unknown about burial practices and social stratification during certain periods of Hellenistic and Roman influence in Egypt. Although it ultimately did not house Alexander's long-lost remains or a menacing curse, the level of global fascination it generated reflects our collective eagerness to decode every last secret locked inside the earth of an ancient land. In 1929, a dusty bundle of old parchment was unearthed in the storerooms of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace. Upon closer examination, it proved to be a fragment of a world map drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. The surviving piece shows parts of Europe, Africa, and the Americas with remarkable accuracy, especially considering that it was drafted less than 2 decades after Christopher Columbus's first voyage. What has set the Piri Reis map apart, however, is the inclusion of a southern continent that some interpret as Antarctica. Even more startling, the outline appears free of ice, as though the coastline was charted in a period prior to heavy glaciation. Piri Reis himself indicated in annotations on the map that he had drawn upon multiple sources over 20 older charts and reference materials, some rumored to date back to the time of Alexander the Great. Among these sources, he claimed were earlier Portuguese maps of the African coast, and possibly maps captured from Christopher Columbus, who had done voyages to the New World in the late 15th century. Still, these references do not fully explain the southwestern portion of the Piri Reis map, which depicts not only South America, but also the distinct shape of a landmass below it. Proponents of the ancient Antarctica theory assert that this region is the continent's Queen Maud land, drawn in an ice-free condition that might have existed tens of thousands of years earlier. Mainstream cartographers and historians counter that the map's purported Antarctica might be an inaccurate rendering of Patagonia or Terra Australis Incognita, a hypothesized southern landmass that medieval and Renaissance geographers often included to balance the known continents of the Northern Hemisphere. They also point out that 16th century explorers had limited knowledge of the southern Atlantic, making misdrawn coastlines more plausible than the survival of an advanced prehistoric maritime tradition. Yet the enigma remains popular in alternative history circles, which see the Piri Reis map as potential evidence of a civilization, perhaps Atlantis, or another advanced maritime culture whose knowledge was partially preserved in obscure charts. Some believe that the catastrophic meltdown at the end of the last ice age might have submerged large tracts of land, erasing direct evidence of advanced seafaring societies while passing down only fragments of cartographic lore. Regardless of one's stance on these theories, the Piri Reis map underscores the complexity and sophistication of Ottoman cartography in the Age of Discovery. It also highlights how bits of inherited knowledge can confound modern historians, raising questions about the channels through which information traveled across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and the Americas. For now, the map remains locked away in Topkapi Palace, a testament to both the global reach of the Ottoman Empire and the tangled puzzle of pre-modern geographical awareness. Whether it truly hints at an unrecognized ancient source or simply reflects the imaginative blending of known coastal outlines, it stands as an enduring icon of cartographic mystery. North America's prehistoric past brims with puzzles none more intriguing than the sudden disappearance of the Clovis people, a culture named after the distinctive fluted stone projectile. Points first discovered near Clovis, New Mexico in the 1930s. Estimated to date back roughly 13,000 years, these artifacts exemplify a high level of skill in flint knapping. Clovis points were attached to spears used to hunt megafauna such as mammoths, mastodons, giant bison, and other creatures that once roamed the late Pleistocene landscapes. For decades, the Clovis people were seen as the earliest well-documented human culture in the Americas, believed to have entered from northeastern Asia over the Bering Land Bridge. Yet around 12,800 years ago, the Clovis culture abruptly vanished from the archaeological record. In tandem, many of the larger species they hunted went extinct. Mammoths and other Pleistocene giants suddenly disappeared. For a long time, the accepted explanation revolved around environmental changes The retreat of glaciers at the end of the Ice Age drastically altered habitats, leading to a decline in the large animal populations on which the Clovis people depended. However, newer theories propose a cataclysmic event such as a comet or meteorite impact as a potential cause of both the megafauna extinctions and the decline of Clovis communities. Researchers point to the existence of a black mat layer at various sites across North America, containing high concentrations of nanodiamonds, microspherules, and carbon that may indicate extraterrestrial impact and widespread wildfires. If this cosmic event were significant enough, it could have devastated ecosystems and food sources, leading to cultural collapse. Skeptics of the impact theory caution that correlation does not necessarily confirm causation, and that not all Clovis sites exhibit the same evidence. Another possibility is that the Clovis people did not entirely vanish, but rather diversified into various regional cultures, losing the distinctive fluted point style as they adapted to a rapidly changing environment. This shift would make it appear that Clovis disappeared when in reality their descendants continued under different cultural expressions. Genetic and linguistic studies of modern indigenous American groups have thus far provided limited clarity, though ongoing research might eventually link Clovis populations with later communities. The fate of the Clovis people underscores the fragility of human societies in the face of abrupt climate changes or ecological upheaval. Whether they succumbed to an extraterrestrial strike, overhunting crises, or simply evolved and scattered into distinct subcultures, their departure underscores that no civilization, however resourceful, is guaranteed continuity. As we find more sites and refine carbon dating methods, our perspective on their disappearance may shift again. For now, the abrupt end of Clovis stands as a haunting reminder that even in the prehistoric past, humanity was deeply entwined with the ever-changing forces of nature and occasionally subject to spectacular cosmic events that shaped our collective destiny. Housed in the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, the Rohonk Codex is a small book of roughly 450 pages that has eluded all attempts at definitive translation since it came to wider scholarly attention in the early 19th century. Written in an unknown script consisting of thousands of distinct symbols, it features illustrations of religious scenes that seem at once Christian, Islamic, and possibly pagan. Depictions of crucifixions, men in turbans, and mysterious architectural settings appear throughout, hinting at a syncretic culture or perhaps a deliberate hoax designed to confound those who might try to interpret it. Multiple cryptographers, linguists, and historians over the centuries have tried to decode the codex. Some have claimed breakthroughs proposing that it is a prayer book, a liturgical text, or even a chronological historical record. Yet no consensus ever emerges, and each decipherment attempt is typically met with scholarly criticism. Not only is the script unrecognizable as any known alphabet, it sometimes seems to combine alphabetic and syllabic characteristics. But the text flow is inconsistent, reading right to left in places and left to right in others, with some passages forming a pattern that defies typical writing systems. One possibility is that the Rohonk Codex is a cipher using a large set of symbols to disguise a standard European or Middle Eastern language. If so, the code remains uncracked, and no Rosetta Stone or key has ever been found. Another line of thought holds that the codex might be a 19th century forgery, designed to attract fame or patronage. During the 1800s, antiquarian frauds were not uncommon as collectors vied for exotic and sensational manuscripts. However, if it is indeed a hoax, its creator must have invested enormous effort to craft such a detailed script and produce numerous illustrations consistent with medieval or Renaissance iconography. A few supporters of its authenticity highlight the codex's advanced age. Some dating methods place the paper around the 16th or 17th century. They also point to the seeming complexity of the writing system as something beyond a casual forgery. If it is real, what lost group or hidden sect might have authored such an esoteric text blending multiple religious motifs? Some connect it to obscure heretical movements or smaller cultural enclaves that once inhabited Central Europe, especially around the time of Ottoman influence in Hungary. At present, the Rohonk Codex remains an enigma that typifies the challenges of linguistic archaeology. It reminds us how easily entire writing systems can vanish from history if the population that used them was assimilated or destroyed, leaving behind only indecipherable artifacts. Whether genuine or fabricated, it serves as a puzzle that continues to attract cryptographers and dreamers, each hoping to be the one who finally unlocks its secrets. However, until someone can demonstrate a convincing translation verified by multiple independent experts, the Rohonk Codex will likely retain its status as Europe's most perplexing literary riddle. Scattered across the tropical landscape of Costa Rica, mysterious stone spheres known locally as Las Bolas have piqued public fascination since their discovery in the 1930s. Ranging in diameter from a few centimeters to over 2 meters, some weigh as much as 16 tons. Most are composed of granodiorite, a tough, igneous rock, shaped with such precision that many appear almost perfectly round. The question is, why would an ancient culture expend enormous effort carving enormous spheres and then arrange them in certain groupings? The spheres were first encountered by workers clearing the jungle for banana plantations in the Diques Delta region. Initially mistaken for relics filled with hidden gold due to local legends, many were damaged or dynamited in fruitless treasure hunts. Subsequent archaeological studies linked the spheres to the Diques culture, a pre-Columbian society that flourished between around 500 CE and the 1500s before Spanish colonization disrupted their way of life. The spheres often appeared in alignments near the entrances of settlements or in proximity to chiefdom structures, suggesting a ceremonial or status-related function. Despite these contexts, specific knowledge of their purpose remains elusive. Some hypothesize that they were markers indicating property boundaries or guiding travelers along certain routes. Others posit an astronomical function arranged to track celestial events, though definitive alignments remain unconfirmed. Their near-perfect geometry has inspired more speculative theories. Perhaps they represented cosmic bodies like the sun and moon or symbolized the cyclical nature of time. Another possibility is that the spheres held religious significance, forming part of rituals or gatherings. Modern efforts to protect and study the spheres have increased in recent decades. UNESCO declared several sites with large groupings of spheres as World Heritage Sites, recognizing their cultural and historical value. Still, many spheres reside in private gardens, tourist attractions, or museum collections around the world, removed from their original settings. This dispersion complicates attempts to reconstruct the contexts that might explain their original arrangement. Technically, carving granodiorite into a sphere is no small feat. It likely involved chipping away the rock with stone or wooden mallets, possibly aided by thermal processes or the use of abrasives. The skill and labor required points to an organized society capable of mobilizing workforce and specialized craftsmanship. Yet the decreased people left no written records or codices, making it difficult to interpret their traditions. In sum, the stone spheres of Costa Rica remain a tangible reminder of a sophisticated but little documented civilization. Their symmetrical beauty intrigues modern observers, while their scattered distribution hints at complex social or cosmological practices. Ultimately, they serve as a testament to how physical artifacts, when separated from written testimony or living cultural memory, can slip into an aura of enduring mystery. Even though archaeologists have outlined plausible explanations, the sphere's deeper symbolic significance may remain locked in the worldview of those who once carved and honored them, now lost to the sweep of time. Beneath the cold waters of the North Sea lies a vanished world, sometimes referred to as Doggerland, a stretch of land that once connected the British Isles to continental Europe during the last ice age. Around 10,000 years ago, with sea levels much lower, this region was likely a lush habitat of forests, wetlands, and plains teeming with megafauna such as mammoths, reindeer, and aurochs. Prehistoric hunter-gatherer communities thrived here, leaving behind traces of their presence in the form of stone tools, bones, and pollen samples. Over millennia, rising seas slowly consumed Doggerland, culminating in a colossal tsunami around 8,200 years ago, triggered by the underwater Storegga slide off the coast of Norway that flooded large areas of northern Europe. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, fishermen trawling the North Sea occasionally pulled up mammoth tusks or antler tools in their nets, hinting at a submerged landscape. In the late 20th century, oil and gas companies conducted seismic surveys of the seafloor, inadvertently providing researchers with detailed topographical maps of what was once dry land. These data revealed river valleys, hills, and lake basins, supporting the hypothesis that this submerged territory was extensive enough to have sustained a significant human population. Some scientists even call Doggerland the Atlantis of the North, though this name is more poetic than archaeological. Today, marine archaeology teams scour these underwater terrains, looking for signs of Mesolithic settlements. However, retrieving artifacts from scattered oceanic sites is notoriously challenging and expensive, requiring specialized diving equipment or remotely operated vehicles. Explorations have turned up flint tools, partial skeletons of large mammals, and peat deposits that preserve ancient plant remains, but conclusive proof of large-scale habitation, such as huts or organized village sites, remains elusive. The continuous erosion of the seabed poses further complications, scattering remnants over wide areas. A key question is whether Doggerland served merely as a hunting corridor for Mesolithic tribes, or whether it supported stable communities that interacted with regions now part of Britain, Scandinavia, and mainland Europe. Some suggest that fertile plains and abundant game might have been enough to sustain permanent or semi-permanent dwellings. If so, the repeated pulses of sea level rise would have forced these communities to migrate gradually, until a sudden catastrophic inundation from the Storegga tsunami ended occupation entirely. The fate of Doggerland resonates powerfully in today's context of global sea level changes. Archaeologists and climatologists alike point to its disappearance as a stark illustration of how human societies adapt or fail to adapt to shifting environments. Many wonder what intangible aspects of culture, language, and belief systems sank beneath the waves, along with Doggerland. Its story bridges the gaps between archaeology, geology, and anthropology, reminding us that landscapes we take for granted can transform drastically over time. As technology improves, future explorations may find more direct evidence, maybe even entire settlement footprints, shedding new light on the vibrant life that once thrived, where the North Sea now sways in relentless motion. From the rumor-shrouded White Pyramid of Shanxi province to the verifiable black sarcophagus that captivated modern Egyptology, these accounts reflect how elusive the boundary can be between legend and tangible discovery. The Piri race map underscores how a single artifact can challenge modern assumptions, hinting at advanced geographical knowledge, possibly inherited from lost sources or simply misinterpreted speculation. Whether the coastline near Antarctica was charted or merely guessed, the map testifies to an age of exploration that blended empiricism with enduring mythic geography. Meanwhile, the Clovis culture's abrupt vanishing, possibly tied to environmental shifts or cataclysmic events, epitomizes the precariousness of human societies in prehistory. The Rohonk Codex and the stone spheres of Costa Rica both showcase how some archaeological puzzles remain opaque in the absence of a decipherable text or living oral tradition. Each stands in stark contrast to the systematic records left by civilizations such as the Maya or the ancient Egyptians, proving that much of the world's heritage may remain forever in partial shadow. And of course, Doggerland reminds us that entire landscapes can slip underwater, carrying the residues of human lives into the depths. Like the legends of Atlantis, Doggerland's story underscores how mythic accounts of lost lands can spring from real geological events. Even though we can reconstruct glimpses of the flora, fauna, and ephemeral dwellings that once dotted that territory, the day-to-day realities of those ancient inhabitants remain mostly beyond our grasp. The deeper implication is that we cannot simply rely on the remains of large stone monuments, tombs, or written records to piece together an accurate picture of our ancestors' capabilities. More ephemeral cultural expressions, carved wooden artifacts, perishable textiles, and intangible spiritual beliefs can vanish without a trace, leaving behind disjointed clues that breed endless speculation. In many cases, national and local authorities must also weigh religious or ethical concerns before unveiling these sites to the world. Access limitations due to environmental, political, or cultural sensitivities further shroud the truth. In concluding Part 2, we see that searching for lost civilizations and puzzling relics is not just a quest for treasure or novelty. It is a form of self-discovery for humanity at large. Each new lead, whether it springs from a rumored aerial photograph or a chance unearthing during modern construction, can turn our understanding of history on its head. As we transition to Part 3, we will delve into even more conundrums, from abandoned obelisks in Egypt to the intricately carved Kailasa Temple in India. We will also explore centuries-old manuscripts and phenomena that push the limits of our scientific explanation. Through these additional explorations, the tapestry of ancient mysteries expands further, reminding us once again that our heritage is as vast as it is veiled, and that curiosity remains a driving force in unraveling the many enigmas bequeathed to us by the past. Doors to the unknown. Welcome to the final stage of our journey through the annals of ancient mysteries. Having investigated hidden tombs, cryptic manuscripts, submerged lands, and puzzling megaliths, we now turn to sites and artifacts that further illustrate humankind's remarkable capacity for innovation and for secrecy. This section includes a monumental temple carved entirely from a single rock, a labyrinth mentioned by ancient historians, but long regarded as myth, and an obelisk that, if completed, would have dwarfed most of Egypt's existing wonders. The impetus behind these extraordinary feats of engineering and artistry often lies hidden in lost knowledge systems or in the motivations of those who commissioned them: pharaohs, queens, pious devotees, or entire communities driven by shared beliefs. In many cases, the objects themselves present contradictory clues, leaving experts to debate how such projects were accomplished with the technology of their era. Other times, the discovered remain spark controversy or remain off-limits, locked behind modern bureaucracies, geopolitical barriers, or concerns about preserving the sanctity of the site. We will begin with the unfinished obelisk of Aswan, a mammoth project that speaks to the bold aspirations of an ancient Egyptian civilization, yet also highlights the limitations they encountered, prompting them to abandon an endeavor of epic proportions. Next, we turn to the Kailasa temple in India, part of the Ellora cave complex, where artisans carved a breathtaking structure straight from a single basalt cliff, defying rational explanation of how it could be completed so rapidly with rudimentary tools. Then our path takes us to the once fabled Library of Alexandria, the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient world, a place said to have housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls before it was destroyed or dissipated by fires, decrees, and wars across the centuries. We explore the confounding Roman dodecahedrons, small geometric objects made of bronze or stone, whose use remains entirely unclear despite over 100 finds scattered across Europe's former Roman frontiers. Furthermore, the Dead Sea Scrolls remind us that even when texts are discovered in abundance, interpreting their significance can rewrite religious and historical narratives. We encounter the phenomenon of the moving stones of Death Valley, whose meandering paths across a dried lakebed perplexed onlookers for decades until a rare combination of environmental conditions provided a solution. And finally, we reveal the labyrinth of Hawara in Egypt, reported by Greek historians to contain thousands of underground chambers, an architectural wonder overshadowed by the fame of the nearby pyramids. The recent suggestion that it may indeed exist partially buried and partially destroyed is a testament to how little we still know about the layers of civilization stacked beneath our feet. Together, these discoveries challenge not just our knowledge of structural or technical prowess, but also our assumptions about creativity, devotion, and resourcefulness. They are doors to the unknown, openings into times and places where the boundary between myth and reality grows thin, inviting us to question how we might unravel the threads of our history that remain entangled in secrecy and forgotten craft. On the rugged northern edge of Aswan's granite quarries, an enormous monument lies partially carved from the bedrock, an obelisk that could have been the tallest and heaviest ever erected if completed. Believed to date to the 18th dynasty, possibly commissioned by Queen Hatshepsut, this unfinished obelisk would have measured nearly 42 meters and weighed an estimated 1,200 tons. Scholars have long debated the motivations behind its massive size. Was it intended for Karnak Temple or another iconic sanctuary? Whatever its destination, this obelisk's sheer scale suggests a society unafraid of ambitious endeavors that push the limits of contemporary engineering. Yet the project came to a halt, most likely due to a crack that formed in the granite. The fracture would have rendered the obelisk structurally unsound, leading stonecutters to abandon it in place, rather than risk an expensive, time-consuming transport that might end in catastrophic collapse. For archaeologists, the unfinished obelisk offers unprecedented insight into ancient Egyptian quarrying techniques. Traces of dolerite-pounding stones are scattered around the site, and the chisel marks show where workers carefully separated the obelisk from the surrounding bedrock by creating narrow trenches, then used wooden wedges soaked in water to expand the cracks. It is a vivid illustration of how labor-intensive such feats were, requiring a vast workforce operating in the region's sweltering heat. The biggest question remains: how would they have moved a 200-ton monolith? Even modern heavy-lift cranes struggle with such loads, and transporting something so enormous over 200 kilometers to Thebes, modern-day Luxor, would require a meticulously planned operation along the Nile. Some hypothesize that a special barge or raft might have floated the obelisk during the annual flood, while others argue that the entire plan was overly ambitious, which could explain why the project never resumed after the crack was discovered. Despite these practical concerns, alternative viewpoints flourish. Certain fringe theories suggest advanced or lost technologies that minimized manual effort. Others link the obelisk to symbolic cosmic alignments, implying that a spiritual impetus, rather than merely pride or propaganda, fueled the idea of carving such a colossal stone. While mainline Egyptology finds no compelling evidence for such exotic methods, the site's magnitude does inspire awe. Indeed, had the obelisk been completed, it might well have ranked among the greatest achievements of the ancient world. Today, visitors can walk on pathways that circle the massive trench, witnessing the underside of an obelisk that never saw the light of day. The unfinished obelisk continues to be a silent testament both to the aspirations of Egyptian rulers and to the physical constraints that not even pharaohs could overcome. In a single location, it brings together ambition, technological ingenuity, and misfortune, reminding us that not every grand project from antiquity reached the glorious fruition intended by its patrons. Deep within the Ellora cave complex in Maharashtra, India, the Kailasa temple stands as a testament to human dedication and architectural innovation. Unlike structures built from the ground up with separate blocks, this temple was carved top-down from a single basalt cliff, a feat so complex that many scholars find it nearly unfathomable, given the technology traditionally ascribed to the 8th century CE. Its patrons, the Rashtrakuta kings, reportedly completed the temple in about 18 years, a remarkably short window for removing an estimated 400,000 tons of rock and then elaborately decorating the remaining surfaces. The temple honors Lord Shiva and is considered a megalithic marvel of the Indian subcontinent. Its design includes multiple levels, pillars, sculptures, courtyards, and connecting bridges. Stone elephants, lions, and mythological creatures adorn the courtyard, while intricate reliefs depict scenes from Hindu epics like the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Chief among the temple's carvings is a colossal panel portraying the demon king Ravana attempting to lift Mount Kailasa. Shiva's abode, an image that exudes both power and artistic mastery. What astounds researchers is not just the temple's scale, but the precision of its layout. By starting from the top, the architects had no margin for error. Any miscalculation would have led to irreparable damage. Traditionally, it is explained that thousands of laborers and artisans worked day and night for nearly 2 decades using chisels, hammers, and perhaps rudimentary scaffolding. But how they managed to coordinate such meticulous detailing across multiple levels, hidden from direct overhead views, once the initial layers were removed, remains elusive. Some theorists propose advanced measurement systems or a system of pre-planned models that were effectively projected onto the rock. Beyond the engineering puzzle, the Kailasa temple raises questions about the cultural and religious motivations that might have spurred its creation. Local lore attributes the temple's rapid completion to divine intervention or superhuman dedication. Another tradition tells of a queen who, distraught over her husband's illness, vowed to commission a grand temple to Shiva if he recovered, and demanded the temple's Shikara Tower be completed within a week to fulfill her vow. While likely an embellishment, such legends underscore the temple's near-miraculous impression. The site faced danger during the 17th century when the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb reportedly ordered its demolition. History says 1,000 men spent several years trying to dismantle the structure, but inflicted only minimal damage. The incredible hardness of basalt, combined with the unyielding monolithic design, proved nearly impervious to systematic destruction. This unintended field test attests to the structural soundness of a temple carved rather than built. Modern tourists and scholars who stand beneath Kailasa Temple's massive courtyards often describe a sense of wonder as though stepping back into an era when faith, artistic excellence, and sheer audacity combine to create a place where the spiritual and material realms converge. Its grandeur, locked into solid rock, continues to defy quick or easy explanations. An immortal monument reminding us of the extraordinary heights ancient artisans could reach. In the 3rd century BCE, under the Ptolemaic dynasty, the city of Alexandria in Egypt became home to what may well have been the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient Mediterranean. Known simply as the Library of Alexandria, this institution was part of a larger research center called the Mausion, where scientists, philosophers, poets, and theologians gathered. Estimates of the library's holdings range from 200,000 to 700,000 papyrus scrolls, including canonical works of Homer, Plato, and Aristotle, as well as texts from Persia, India, and Egypt. Contrary to popular belief, the library's decline was likely a gradual process rather than a single cataclysmic event. While Julius Caesar's siege of Alexandria in 48 BCE is often cited as the moment the library burned, accounts from ancient historians suggest that only part of the collection was lost in that incident. Other sources implicate Roman Emperor Aurelian, who fought to reclaim the city in the 3rd century CE, or Christian zealots in the 4th century, who destroyed pagan temples and texts. Later, a medieval story credited Muslim conquerors under Caliph Umar with burning the remaining scrolls to heat bathhouses, though many historians doubt its authenticity. Whatever the specific causes, the end result was a tremendous depletion of Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and other works that might have accelerated humanity's scientific cultural progress had they survived. Euclid, Archimedes, Eratosthenes, and many other intellectual giants conducted or disseminated their research through the library. That a significant portion of the ancient world's knowledge base vanished, leaving only scattered references elsewhere, continues to haunt scholars. Some wonder what breakthroughs in mathematics, medicine, astronomy, or engineering might have emerged centuries earlier if the library had endured. Yet the precise layout and fate of the library remains somewhat speculative. No physical remnants have been definitively identified. Archaeological digs in Alexandria have uncovered potential sites near the royal quarter. Yet the devastation wrought by centuries of urban development means artifacts directly linked to the library remain elusive. Another complication is that the Mausoleum encompassed multiple facilities, including branch libraries, administrative buildings, and lecture halls. Various satellite libraries, like the one at the Serapeum, may have splintered portions of the collection, further complicating theories of how it was ultimately lost. In a broader sense, the story of the Library of Alexandria symbolizes both the heights of academic ambition and the fragility of human knowledge. It serves as a cautionary tale, prompting modern institutions to create backups, digital repositories, and cross-institutional collaborations to prevent a similar catastrophic loss. Though we can never fully recover the scrolls that once lined its shelves, the library's spirit lives on in the quest for universal knowledge and the principle that, given the freedom and resources, human curiosity knows no bounds. First discovered in the early 18th century, Roman dodecahedrons have been found scattered across Europe, especially in territories that once constituted the northern frontiers of the Roman Empire. These small, hollow objects are typically cast in bronze or carved in stone and have 12 flat faces, each face shaped like a pentagon with a circular hole in the center. Tiny knobs project from each vertex, giving them a knobbed geometric appearance. Sizes vary from about 4 centimeters to over 10 centimeters in diameter. What baffles archaeologists is the complete absence of any contemporary Roman documentation about these artifacts. No writer from antiquity, neither engineers like Vitruvius nor encyclopedists like Pliny the Elder, mentions them. This silence has sparked multiple interpretations. Some theories propose the dodecahedrons served as candle holders, although the hole's different diameters seem impractical for standard candles. Another idea is that they were used as knitting aids for creating gloves or sleeves with varying diameters. More esoteric suggestions posit that they functioned as surveying instruments, measuring devices for legionaries, or even portable sundials. In some cases, dodecahedrons were found alongside coin hoards or in graves, implying that they had value either monetary or symbolic. One was reportedly discovered next to a female skeleton, leading to speculation about its significance in funerary rites or personal devotion. A few show signs of wear or contain residues that could be wax or other substances, though the evidence is not conclusive. The considerable variation in hole sizes among different specimens further complicates any attempts to attribute a uniform, practical function. Since no definitive solution has emerged, more speculative interpretations flourish. Could they be ritual objects used for divination or fortune-telling? Some suggest the holes might accommodate rods or wires, like a tool for predicting outcomes based on how sunlight or water trickles through them. Others see them as part of a hidden Roman cult, possibly dedicated to astrology, given the 12-faced geometry reminiscent of the zodiac. Without inscriptions or explicit references, all these lines of reasoning remain conjectural. Modern experiments have attempted to replicate potential uses. Enthusiasts and scholars have tested them as rangefinders or ballistic calculators for archers, but found no consistent results. Others tried employing them in weaving or knitting tasks, concluding that while feasible, the different hole sizes complicate the pattern of thread loops. None of these experiments has been universally convincing. Ultimately, Roman dodecahedrons remind us that even well-explored archaeological contexts can yield artifacts whose purposes have vanished alongside the cultural memory that created them. The dodecahedron's well-crafted nature indicates they were not random items. They required significant metalworking skill. Their distribution across multiple Roman provinces suggests a shared, perhaps official usage, or at least a widely recognized function. Until a definitive link is established through new findings or serendipitous ancient text, they remain a puzzle piece in the story of Rome, concrete evidence of how easily certain threads of knowledge slip away over the centuries. Discovered in 1947 by a Bedouin shepherd searching for a lost goat in the cliffs near Qumran. The Dead Sea Scrolls constitute one of the most groundbreaking archaeological finds of the 20th century. Hidden away in clay jars, these ancient manuscripts include nearly 1,000 texts, mostly on parchment or papyrus, dating from around the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE. Their discovery forced scholars to re-evaluate the development of Judaism and the early contexts of Christianity, offering a treasure trove of biblical manuscripts and apocryphal works. Roughly 40% of the scrolls are copies of Hebrew Bible texts, making them the oldest extant versions of these scriptures by about a millennium compared to the previously known Masoretic texts. The accuracy of transmission over centuries is remarkable, though notable variations exist in certain passages. Another 30% consists of sectarian writings, community rules, commentaries, and liturgical texts believed to originate from the Essenes, a Jewish sect thought to have lived at Qumran. Additional scrolls feature works like the Book of Enoch or Jubilees, expanding our understanding of what constituted scripture or sacred literature for some groups in the Second Temple period. The Copper Scroll. One of the more unusual finds lists what appear to be hidden caches of gold and silver, leading some treasure hunters to launch expeditions based on its cryptic directions. So far, no such hoards have been confirmed, though the treasure-laden text fuels ongoing intrigue. Scholars debate whether the riches it describes were real or metaphorical, reflecting the tension between the esoteric and literal interpretations that pervade many of these ancient documents. A key question is why these manuscripts were placed in remote caves. One popular theory is that the Essenes hid the scrolls to safeguard their community's religious texts during the upheaval of the First Jewish-Roman War, 66-73 CE. Another posits that the scrolls were part of library collections from Jerusalem's temple spirited away before the city's destruction. Controversies also arose from slow publication schedules and restricted access. For decades, only a small coterie of scholars had direct oversight of the fragments, spurring accusations of academic monopoly and conspiracy theories about concealed revelations. Beyond their doctrinal significance, the Dead Sea Scrolls shed light on daily life in an ascetic Jewish community. References to communal meals, purifications, and eschatological expectations illustrate a community deeply invested in preparing for an imminent divine judgment. The scrolls also offer a linguistic goldmine for philologists studying Hebrew and Aramaic's evolution. Once painstakingly unrolled and transcribed, they required advanced preservation methods to prevent further decay. Even now, the High Court of Israel, which oversees many of the scrolls, maintains strict protocols about handling and storage given their priceless historical value. Overall, the Dead Sea Scrolls are a cornerstone in understanding Jewish religious diversity and the roots of early Christianity. They reveal a dynamic milieu where different sects debated interpretations of prophecy, purity laws, and messianic expectations, discussions that would profoundly shape the development of Western religious thought. In a remote corner of Death Valley National Park, known as Racetrack Playa, a bizarre phenomenon takes place. Large stones, some weighing hundreds of pounds, appear to slide across the flat, cracked lakebed surface on their own, leaving behind winding tracks, sometimes hundreds of meters long. For decades, no one witnessed the rocks in motion, spurring a host of theories from hurricane-force winds to magnetism or even supernatural forces. Photographs taken over the years clearly documented that the stones changed positions, yet the driving mechanism remained one of nature's most perplexing riddles. Finally, in 2013, a research team led by Richard and James Norris captured the stones in motion, using time-lapse cameras, GPS trackers, and weather monitoring equipment. Their observations reveal that during winter nights, a thin layer of water covers the playa's surface, and then freezes, forming fragile sheets of ice. When the morning sun warms the air, these ice sheets crack and begin to float, propelled by light breezes. The ice, in turn, nudges the stones, causing them to slide incrementally across the muddy substrate beneath. Although the wind speeds recorded were modest, far below the formidable gusts once hypothesized, the combination of water ice and minimal friction on the slick mud proved sufficient to move the stones. This explanation underscores that a rare confluence of events must align for the phenomenon to occur. First, enough precipitation must gather in the dry lakebed to form a shallow pond. Second, nighttime temperatures must drop low enough to freeze the water's surface. Third, partial thawing must occur, while leaving fragile ice plates that a gentle breeze can push. Lastly, the ground beneath must be soft, yet firm enough to record tracks, but not so soft that stones sink. These synchronized conditions can happen only sporadically, explaining why observers so rarely see the rocks in motion, and why some stones remain immobile for years. Although the mystery is now largely settled from a scientific standpoint, the sense of wonder persists. Racetrack Playa is a place of stark beauty, its desolate environment underscoring the quiet drama of ice, wind, and rock. The existence of these moving stones also reminds us that nature often orchestrates solutions to seemingly inexplicable puzzles using subtle, nearly imperceptible forces. The phenomenon stands as a testament to how patient, methodical investigation coupled with modern instruments can eventually decode even the most baffling enigmas. Visitor guidelines advise travelers not to disturb the stones or the tracks. Unfortunately, in recent years, vandals and casual thrill seekers have sometimes moved rocks or driven on the playa, damaging the delicate surface. Preservation efforts continue to emphasize the site's scientific importance and its singular capacity to illustrate nature's elusive choreography. The moving stones of Death Valley remain one of the most captivating examples of how extraordinary phenomena can reside in seemingly inhospitable corners of our planet, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal their secrets. In the 5th century BCE, the Greek historian Herodotus claimed to have seen a sprawling labyrinth in the region of Hawara, near the Fayum oasis in Egypt. He described it as a massive structure consisting of 3,000 rooms, 1,500 at ground level and 1,500 underground, with twisting corridors that connected courtyards and halls. Herodotus marveled that this labyrinth surpassed even the pyramids in grandeur. Later, writers, including Strabo and Diodorus Siculus, repeated these accounts, fueling the labyrinth's legendary status. Over time, many scholars considered these stories to be exaggerations or pure myth, as no corresponding structure was definitively identified. Yet in 2008, a Belgian-Egyptian expedition led by researcher Louis de Cordier used ground-penetrating radar near the pyramid of Amenemhat II at Hawara. They announced that a buried structure with vast chambers indeed lay beneath the sands, potentially matching the labyrinth's dimensions described by ancient writers. If correct, this find could rewrite a major chapter in Egyptology. The labyrinth, according to Herodotus, once served as a grand funerary complex and temple for the cult of crocodile gods, housing shrines for all 12 provinces of Egypt. Its thick walls and hidden passages may have been designed to deter grave robbers from accessing royal tombs. Soon after the 2008 announcement, however, reports emerged that Egyptian authorities restricted publication of the expedition's results. Official reasons cited preservation, concerns bureaucratic red tape, and the desire to protect sensitive archaeological information. Critics, on the other hand, speculated about hidden agendas or potential controversies that such a discovery might provoke. For instance, unearthing the labyrinth could overshadow more famous structures like the Giza pyramids, or unearth truths that might challenge the mainstream historical timeline. Whether real or exaggerated, the labyrinth concept resonates deeply with Egyptian theology, which often emphasize the journey of the soul through complex spiritual passages. If the labyrinth served as more than just a protective measure against looters, it could have played a symbolic role in guiding the deceased through an underworld realm. Artistic depictions from later periods occasionally show labyrinthine motifs, though nothing definitively ties them back to Hawara. For now, the labyrinth remains inaccessible, locked beneath layers of silt and restriction. The site is in a region prone to high groundwater and agricultural infiltration, posing challenges to any large-scale excavation. Even if funding and clearance were granted, stabilization efforts would be paramount to avoid flooding the newly exposed chambers. Thus, one of antiquity's most famous lost structures continues to hover on the threshold between legend and reality. Will future technological developments, along with shifts in policy or public interest, finally bring the labyrinth to light in verifiable form? The answer remains uncertain, but the echoes of Herodotus's account persist, urging intrepid explorers and dedicated scholars to keep searching for the truth behind the silent sands of Hawara. As we close our extended exploration of some of the world's most intriguing ancient mysteries, we find ourselves confronted by the richness and complexity of humanity's past. The unfinished obelisk in Aswan encapsulates the audacious vision and technical challenges faced by ancient Egyptian stonemasons, while the Kailasa temple at Ellora showcases India's genius for integrated sculpture, reversing typical construction norms with a top-down approach. Each site reveals human creativity stretched to its limits, fueled by beliefs and ambitions that we still strive to comprehend fully. The fabled Library of Alexandria stands as both an inspiration and a tragic reminder that knowledge can be shockingly fragile. Even though it served as a beacon of scholarly pursuit, the physical scrolls that recorded immeasurable advancements have disappeared, scattered, or destroyed by warfare, religious upheavals, or gradual neglect. The Roman dodecahedrons likewise symbolize how entire categories of expertise can fade away, leaving behind objects that defy explanation, despite their apparent widespread use. They hint that not every facet of daily life in the Roman world, one of history's most documented empires, has been clearly understood. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, we witness what can happen when fragile texts survive intact, shielded by luck and isolation in desert caves. They have reconfigured our interpretation of religious history, demonstrating that the line between orthodoxy and heresy was often more fluid than we assumed. Meanwhile, the moving stones of Death Valley highlight how a phenomenon can appear to flout natural laws, until patiently observed under the right conditions, proving that even what seems mystical can yield to measured inquiry. Finally, the rumored labyrinth at Hawara calls us back to Egypt, to consider how entire complexes may remain buried, perhaps intentionally, and how modern limitations on excavation can preserve but also obscure crucial chapters of history. Collectively, these mysteries underscore themes that have surfaced again and again: the interplay between advanced technical or organizational capabilities and the spiritual or symbolic motives that animate them. The fragility of written and oral traditions, the persisting tension between rigorous scientific research and romantic or esoteric interpretations. They exemplify how human tenacity combined with creativity can accomplish grand feats, and how easily such achievements slip into obscurity if not preserved or continuously studied. These stories are not merely about the distant past. They reflect ongoing concerns about cultural heritage, identity, environmental adaptation, and the imperative to document and safeguard knowledge. Whether encoded in stone, written on scrolls, or floating in the collective memory of oral tradition, the sum of what we can learn from our ancestors remains vast. Even in an era of satellites, digital archives, and large-scale collaborations, we often find ourselves stymied by the same timeless problems as dearth of funding, restricted access, and the ephemeral nature of materials. In the end, mysteries serve a vital purpose. They remind us that history is not a static record, but a living dialogue. Each new piece of evidence, be it a discovered artifact, a deciphered text, or a fresh scientific test, has the power to shift our worldview. As we conclude this three-part journey, we remain enriched by the questions that remain. Long after we have examined every ruin and read every extant manuscript, the puzzle of our collective heritage will continue to beckon us, urging us to look deeper, dig further, and keep alive the unending quest for understanding. After exploring these incredible mysteries, I can't help but feel humbled by how much there still is to learn about our past. It's amazing to think that beneath our feet, hidden in ancient tombs and lost cities, are secrets that could transform how we understand our very origins. To me, these stories aren't just about solving puzzles. They remind us of the endless human spirit of curiosity and wonder. Now, I want to turn it over to you. Which part of today's journey left you most intrigued? Maybe you have your own theories or insights that could shed new light on these ancient enigmas. Whatever thoughts you're having right now, I genuinely hope you'll share them in the comments below. Your opinions and discussions add incredible value to this community, and who knows, your perspective could spark an entirely new way of looking at these age-old mysteries. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for joining me on this unforgettable journey through time. See you in the next adventure.